Hi, this is Dr. Pyong Ho Kim. I would like to present my paper entitled College Students' Online Learning Experience During the Pandemic. This video presentation consists of abstract, introduction, methods, results and analysis, and conclusion. I would like to start with the abstract. The pandemic caused by COVID-19 has been causing global health crisis and social distractions, including higher education organizations in South Korea. The study attempted to examine the particular difficulties that college students perceive as they take online courses, what strategies they use in order to cope with the perceived problems, and what policies they demand the university to implement to resolve the situations they are facing at this point. To do so, 6 undergraduate and graduate students from a university in a metropolitan area participated in a series of focus group interview or FGI sessions. The students appeared to have difficulty in staying academically motivated, suffer from fatigue and boredom, and they voluntarily formed study group sessions with peers to cope with the situation, and they expect the university to provide them with psychological therapy sessions as well as group study sessions. Educators and university leaders may utilize the findings of the study in order to better support the college students to cope with these unprecedented pandemic-related problems. About the background of the study, the widespread of COVID-19 has been causing a global health crisis since December 2019. This resulted in confusion in almost all areas of society. It gave a fatal inconvenient effect on human daily life, including higher education. The Korean government struggled to suggest educational countermeasures to prevent the spread of COVID-19 crisis, and the Ministry of Education announced the postponement of school opening and changes in academic management. Accordingly, most universities in South Korea postponed the opening classes. However, in the end, offline classes were conducted only in those that desperately needed practice, experiment, and practical skills. Most of the universities ended up providing online learning environment to the students. This unprecedented online learning continued for almost 2 consecutive years. Though a large number of universities, students, and instructors are now familiar with the online learning environments as of November 2021, relevant problems and difficulties are still evident in terms of class preparation, technical issues, quality of learning, students' access to technology, and many more. Both instructors and learners who are only familiar with offline classes are experiencing confusion and conflicts, and the main problems appeared to include poor quality of lectures, inadequate systems for more successful learning in the online learning environment, lack of effective teaching learning tools, and lack of student-student as well as student-instructor communications. Recent studies showed that most of college students are not satisfied with their online learning experience compared to their previous offline courses. In an underprepared situation due to the COVID-19 outbreak in the first semester of 2020, instructors, learners, university staff members, and even parents were confused as to policies of online learning that were implemented. In order to cope with the complexity and in order to resolve the aforementioned problems, the present study pursues to examine the difficulties that college students are experiencing regarding their online learning environments. There are 3 research questions that this study explores. First is, what difficulties do college students perceive regarding their online learning environment? Second is, what means of resolutions do college students use in order to overcome the perceived difficulties? And what policies do college students expect their university to implement in order to overcome the perceived difficulties? The present study adopted an approach named Focus Group Interview, or FGI, that involves a small number of participants that has similar demographics with common traits like same university, pursuing to become a teacher in their future career, and the gender, which is female. The purpose of this particular method was to gather crucial data regarding a certain topic, which is college students' experience as online learners and what they wish and expect the university to do for future analysis. The researcher attempted to congregate the ideas and opinions from the participants' interactions during the course. A more detailed description of the guidelines and the questionnaire is attached in the Appendix A, which is the data I will introduce later. The researcher chose a total of 6 student participants via a purpose sampling method in order to form a sense of bonded relationships among them. A more detailed description of the participants is shown in Table 1. This is the Table 1 that describes the background of student participants. As you see here, we have divided the students into 2 groups, and all of the participant students are female. Their age ranged from 20 to 26. They pursue different degrees, including bachelor's and doctoral, and their majors were educational psychology and early childhood education. The researcher conducted 2 interview sessions with each group, a total of 4 sessions, using an online video conferencing software, Zoom. It took less than 50 minutes per session in October 2021. When participants were not able to join, they instead filled out the questionnaire that the researcher had sent in advance. An open questionnaire was used that Kruger and Cassie suggested as an interview tool that included imposing questions, preliminary questions, main questions, and concluding questions. After conducting a preliminary interview, orders and contents of the questions were revised prior to focus group interview sessions. In order to heighten the reliability and validity of the qualitative data analysis, a participant with a doctoral degree in educational psychology major and a participant with a doctoral degree volunteered as research assistants in order to confirm the accuracy of the interviewed contents. Furthermore, Willis and colleagues suggested that analysis of FGI data need to entail observing 3 discussion layers, which are the individual, the group, and the group interaction. In fact, the borderline between 2 layers is rather vague, making it hard to distinguish them from one another. So the researcher followed the guidelines provided by Willis and other colleagues in order to result in in-depth data. And these are the 3 layers of the discussions that I mentioned earlier. We have group components of what, who, and how. I will describe one of each examples. So what group component includes what topics and or opinions produced agreement. An example of who group component is whose interests were representative in the group. And one of the examples of how is how closely did the group adhere to the issues given. These are the 3 layers of the discussions that the researcher used during the interactions. Now, I would like to talk about the results and analysis based on the expressions that the student participants gave. There were 3 major themes observed based on the student participants' responses. The first theme was difficulties students perceived. It included difficulty in concentrating. One participant said concentrating is a big issue because it's the goal that's very hard to achieve and maintain. Another participant stated that starting to study in class is okay, but staying focused is another problem. I get to lose my sense of focusing for most of the time. The second idea was regarding difficulty in staying academically motivated. One student wrote that I mostly feel as if I am studying alone with no one else around. This loneliness does not help at all. It actually worsens my need to study. Another participant said, others seem to study hard and for a long time. For me, it's not the case for most of the time. The third idea evident was fatigue and boredom. One of the students said feeling sleepy is the usual feeling I get for every class I attend. And other ideas included difficulty in communicating with the instructors and financial difficulty. Some of its comments or responses included not every professor, but some professors respond to my emails in a very tardy fashion. Do they not check their emails every day? It's one of their responsibilities. And regarding the financial difficulty, she wrote, I didn't have a laptop before, and for the online courses, I had to get one and other necessary equipments. The second theme observed was student participants' strategies to cope with the difficulties. The first idea was forming and participating in study group sessions. One participant wrote, my middle and high school friends and I meet online and show how we study to each other on the video. It's kind of helping me to realize that I have to study and I'm not the only one who needs to study. When I cannot meet my friends online, I watch YouTube videos in which people studying by themselves. The second idea was in-school consultations, and one of the participants said, my friend from another major recommended me to a therapy session. I found that I'm not the only one struggling with the studying. It gave me a sense of relief. The third idea that was evident was studying alone, and one of the participants said, I used to study alone before COVID-19 and I still study alone. It's my style and I'm sticking to what I feel comfortable with. The third and final theme was policies that students expect from the university. Its ideas included study group and psychological therapy sessions from the university. Some of the responses included, as I said earlier, I like to study with my friends online. What if the school gives us the same kind of chance? I'm sure many others will benefit from that. Studying together might be helpful, though I have never tried it before. Since students do not volunteer to do so, the school can help us with that. Regarding the psychological therapy session, the counselors are helpful, but I need more sessions like them on the campus. It's great to have someone who understands your situations when no one else does. Another statement went like, during the pandemic, it's the psychological status that is more at stake than other criteria. So the school should provide us with some forms of therapy with experts, so that I can get out of these blue feelings I'm getting these days. And professional development sessions for instructors. This was the third idea regarding the policies students expect from the university. This student participant stated that you won't believe how many professors are still not used to using Zoom and other online applications. I seriously think they need some forms of instruction in that category. I mean, didn't they learn how to use the online tools last year already? It sounds arrogant, but sometimes I feel like I can handle the Zoom better than they can. And now I would like to move on to the conclusion. The study attempted to find out what difficulties college students currently experience, what means of resolutions they implement, in order to overcome the perceived difficulties and what policies they expect the university to implement. As for the first research question, the findings show that the student participants were generally struggling with the difficulty in concentrating, difficulty in staying academically motivated, fatigue and boredom while preparing for examinations, difficulty in effectively communicating with the instructors and peers, and financial difficulties regarding their online learning experience. As for the second research question, the findings show that the student participants attempted to form group study sessions with peers, consult in-school counselors, and study alone as they cope with the difficulties they encounter. And as for the third research question, the findings show that the student participants wish their university to provide them with university-led group study conferences, as well as psychological therapy sessions to better cope with the aforementioned problems. For more effective college online learning courses and classes conducted in the future, the researcher made the following suggestions based on the findings. First, it appeared that the students were going through a wide range of difficulties regarding their online learning experience. This is rather an unexpected result, especially because many of them were considered to become used to the new environment in which offline courses were almost completely removed. Prior to providing its students with desired assistance, the university needs to be aware of the precise hardships that the pandemic had presented to the student body. Second, the student participants appeared to cope with their problematic situations that they were encountering, even when the supports from the university were insufficiently provided. From the participants' responses, the researcher could learn that there is a strong need to promote interaction and cooperative learning among the students and the instructors that can actively reflect students' opinions to develop and apply appropriate teaching methods. Third, it is necessary to provide adequate supports to both instructors and learners by reorganizing IT equipments, teaching and learning supports, and operating systems in order to better facilitate online learning. As many of the student participants appealed that a small body of the faculty needs to develop their IT-related skills, relevant training is likely to resolve the aforementioned problems. Since the problems that the pandemic has been causing seem to distress students' psychological well-being, many of the students may find the group therapy sessions helpful in order to ease their minds. Since the data of the present study were collected and analyzed from 6 participants only who were attending a single university, the results are likely to be different from those of the overall population. There also exists a certain restraint to generalize its findings. Therefore, it is desirable that further studies are conducted not only with the larger student bodies, but also with the instructors in order to evaluate their viewpoints as well. More techniques, including surveys, more of one-on-one in-depth interviews, class observations, self-reports of the instructors and learners, and reflections may be applied for better studies. Even in difficult situations, continuous efforts and understanding need to be maintained steadily in the future online learning environments. As a few previous studies support, the quality of online courses as well as students' satisfactory levels can gradually improve through mutual understanding and joint efforts based on the students' determination to stay academically motivated, instructors' efforts to resolve the presented problems, and the university's supports. Correctly and accurately analyzing students' difficulties and their needs would be the first stepping stone to result in a perfect balance between online and offline approaches. Additionally, these are focus group interview guidelines and questions that were implemented for the study. This is the set of the questions and guidelines used for round 1. These were the core questions used for round 2. And these are the references. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you for your attention.